Things are happening so fast today, but we have to keep up with it all or we will be left behind. You came here for the truth. Big things are happening. The first, I want to talk about contagion destabilization. We are always paying attention to the financial markets, to the economy. A lot of different actions have been taking place. I will give you updates on that. And the second is the financial uncertainties. This will be all throughout the video, in fact, but I want to touch on a few points I believe are important to you, your portfolio, your retirement account, and so much more. Let's begin. So let's start right here. At the time I'm recording this video, Dow futures reverse sharply dropped more than 500 points on uncertainty. Nobody knows what's going to happen, of course, but I could take a look at what has happened previously, and this is the four major US markets, and it certainly hasn't been so good over the last little while. You can look at that particularly with the Dow Jones and even more so with the Russell. Small caps. Looking at all of this, it just gives you an insight as to what has happened here. Jerome Powell, all of the taper, what's happening in the bond market. This shows overall weakness, but we don't know what's going to happen in the coming days. This right now is the topic that I will discuss. We'll get into it a little bit more here. Powell is going to tell the Senate that what we're seeing today poses a downside risk to the economy and complicates the inflation picture. So once he had a chance to say that, hey, wait a minute, maybe everything's not okay, and that would of course give them an excuse to delay everything that they have been doing. You never know, but that's what they're saying anyway. This is an article out of Bloomberg, and essentially just saying everything we've been watching here. The suggestion is that we are going to find out in the next 2 to 8 weeks what will happen. I'm finding the words difficult to use because I got to watch out because of the watchers, but essentially just trying to tell you that in 2 to 8 weeks, you're going to find out how many cases, how many situations coming up, and as a result of that information, it's going to determine if we're going to lockdowns, if we're going to restrictions, and so on. Many countries have already shut their borders, have said, no, you can't go to South Africa, and so on. But we will see how this goes. In the meantime, what they're saying here, quote, at a minimum, volatility will be higher in the next 2 weeks. A further slide more than 10% is a buying opportunity, largely suggesting that this is just a little bump in the road. Taking a look at this, Euro Stocks 50 index volatility spikes have been an opportunity this year. So every time there has been a scare, every time there has been a concern, it has supercharged its way higher after. Taking a look at this at the bottom, just showing you essentially the equivalent of the VIX, the MOVE index. These measure different types of volatility. And looking at this for Europe, VSOX, it's all the same. When that spikes, of course, generally that has been very negative to stocks. But what happens after? Everything calms down and everything goes back up. All strategies are suffering, but value stocks have almost erased all gains this year. It has been growth. That's what everybody has been into, but not necessarily in Europe. As you can see, the MSCI Europe Growth Index over the last little while has been down, but certainly has performed well, over the last year. If you can see this right here, orange line, not so good though for value, okay? So just in the last little bit, most of the stocks have had, as I just showed you a minute ago, have not done well in the shorter term, but you got to look at it on the longer term, of course, if you are a long-term investor. Now, according to Deutsche Bank, this survey essentially says that the new variant, it's not going to be a big deal. That's what they believe. But it's still an issue within the financial markets, only moderate important. That's what the majority of them say. However, we will see how that all unravels. Okay, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I don't want to just go on too long. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about what's happening in California. My friends in California, in fact, I have a lot of subscribers from California. Have you noticed that there are less ships off on the coast? Is that possible? I mean, they're fixing this issue, right? Or have they simply covered it up? California ship pileup still piling up, but out of sight and over the horizon. I thought this was hilarious. All-time high 93 ships waiting, including vessels in a new queuing system. Take a look. Amazing. Well, let me just show you the chart. Container ships waiting for berths at Los Angeles and Long Beach. So looking at this, the blue is counted as waiting offshore under the old queuing system. That has been declining since mid-November. However, you look at the red area, counted as waiting offshore under the new queuing system, and it has increased. And that is just classic. It's like you got a problem, just bury your head in the sand. It's all good. They do get into more details. I just want to show you that stat. I think it's amazing what they do in every single case. Now, for you personally, this whole metaverse thing, virtual reality, the idea that people will be living in a virtual world more so than in the real world, although the real world is becoming quite fictional these days. When you look at all this, number one, what do you think of the metaverse? Will you spend time in the metaverse with a screen 2 inches from your face, potentially spending all day in there, if that's what your job entails? Let me know in the comments below. I think it's interesting. Personally, for me, it doesn't sound very attractive, but on the investment side of things, take a look. Brands no longer see metaverse-like worlds as abstract gimmicks. Chipotle, Vans, and Verizon turned to Roblox and Fortnite in an effort to build brand recognition. You could see all of these individuals wearing their Vans gear, Vans in the background, and I just thought, how many companies will be investing billions of dollars to have billboards and clothing and street signs, whatever it is, with their name on it? Because more people are spending time in the virtual world, and even adults too, not just kids, than in the real world. And so there is a huge opportunity for the companies that are getting into this. I think it's really early still, especially with the true metaverse, but this is something to keep an eye on. That's all I'm saying. Again, switching gears. You look at something like the metaverse, and then you take it, just flip it 180 degrees. And we have gold. Because gold is something that's been there forever. Something so simple in a way, and yet so largely ignored. Here's something interesting in the latest IMF stats. Apparently, Singapore added 26 tons of gold to its reserves over May and June of 2021. It's the first gold purchase since at least 2000, and another instance of a developed market central bank buying along with Ireland. Very unusual at this time when we're going more into this digital age, and yet you're seeing this. Why would they buy it? I mean, you have a central bank. You have a relatively strong currency. I mean, in comparison to other currencies, Singapore generally regarded as being very, very safe. And the central bank can pump in as much money as it wants. And so, what are they doing this for? That's the question I pose to you. More than half of shoppers are going into debt this holiday season, study finds. Can you believe this? Why are they going into, I mean, this is crazy, but I see this every year, and every time I have to think to myself, why did you buy that? if you are already heavily in debt, you're using credit cards at 17+% interest rates. I mean, it's crazy. I've seen people invest in their retirement account when they have tens of thousands of debt on their credit card. It doesn't make a single ounce of sense. You've got to piece this all together for yourself, write it down on a paper, figure out what you're going to do, because debt, bad debt, when it's burning a hole in your pocket, that's right, fancy with the graphics, it is never a good thing. And last thing, really quickly, Canadian banks buoyed by mortgage boom look to spur other loans. The banks in Canada, as well as the US, have been doing very, very good because there's an unlimited flow of cash coming through. And of course, they have seen their stocks performing largely very well. Okay. And I think that for a lot of people, they are simply taking on too much debt. And the banks are loving it. The profits are there. The stocks can go higher, but it's the individual that's important. If you agree with me, hit that thumbs up button, okay? I think it's important to support each other any way we can. I appreciate you hanging around, sticking with me here. Good, there's some changes happening on the back end of the Money GPS. Just hang in there. I'm bringing in some cool stuff, trying to get some really good things happening. That's all I'm going to say, okay? And if you want to support the channel, hit that thumbs up button, the like button. It's right down below. Click that. And if you haven't seen this video yet, you definitely want to check it out. So just click it, and I'll see you there.